Yep, I can hear you. I'm wondering, you don't have another device, do you? Like, could you go somewhere else? And no, it's too complicated. Don't worry about it. And then you use your phone camera, and we then use your. It's not gonna look great. And then, like, we're both remote, but you're there. If you had another device, Taco has a phone right there, doesn't he? It'd be hard to see. Oh, there's no. Aren't you guys on campus? Oh, then okay, that's totally fine, man. Talk with, the part of the excitement. This is not only a showcase of PvP, but like the process and journey, right? You know, you know the, you know when you watch up like the fake hyped up boxing matches, right? They're like whatever road to the ring or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
This is like that part.
Yeah.
Before the tournament, right? We're hyping up the main show. There's
Yeah.
like exciting music coming down, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All this stuff, right?
Yeah.
We're talking logistics on
Yeah.
how this could happen. So,
Yeah, for sure.
um,
But yeah. I guess should we just start the stream right now then?
yeah, let's just start it. Let's see when I flip to see this so I can see both of us, and
Yeah.
we'll go from there.
Yep. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today. We're here at SFSU, hosted by the Pokegatrs, and we're here at the site of the Sinister Cup. And
Yeah.
with me, I have King IV, and to the left of me, right here, we have Taco himself, the Stream Master. And
Yeah.
if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Best, Best in West, and today we're going to be shoutcasting this awesome tournament in the Bay Area.
Yeah, should be very exciting. Lots of like very strong competitors, and who are some of your favorites? That you think that you've scrimmed with or you've battled with in the past? Like who are some of the heavy hitters in the Bay Area, or some of the sleeper picks?
Okay, so we have a good collection of great battlers here today. So some of my favorites, I would say, is one of the top ace trainers in the Bay Area is young Bumi.
Yes.
the other ace trainer that's showing up for sure is Barry. He was on a tear at the end of last season, so I think he's definitely up there in terms of ranking and like some of the favorites. He like I don't know if you know who D Master Lance is, but I
Yes.
think D Master Lance faced Barry like 3 times in the finals, and Barry just beat D Master 3 times in a row.
Wow.
So
wow.
I mean, Barry,
That,
that's quite a feat.
yeah.
So other trainers to look out for, I think you got I'm Too Salty for You. He actually won the Open qualifiers in Chicago to be able to make it into that tournament, that knockout stage. I don't know if you've seen Zayzilla. He's been on a few of my videos.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in the Ranger lobby with a lot of people in the Go Stadium tournaments.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Barry versus Young Bumi. Like, how do you compare and contrast their style? Have you had a chance to battle them, see their battles? Like, how would
You're talking about Young Bumi?
yeah, Young Bumi versus Barry. Let's talk
Ooh,
about the
okay.
2 season 1 ace ranked trainers participating. Not that there's a lot of tough competitors here, but let's start
sure.
with that, then we'll move onward. So like, how do you compare these two?
So I think Young Bumi uses very meta teams versus
Yes.
Barry. He often uses, like, he does off strategies. So from what I've heard, I haven't battled Barry that too many times. I battled him 1 time in Kingdom Cup in the finals, and what he likes to do is what you think he's going to do, he does the complete opposite. Like, he goes against convention of like team reading and team building. So I think that's going to be very interesting versus, so you can kind of see the difference between straight meta versus like off meta, like alternative strategies. So it should be
and
very interesting.
That's from my interpretation of Young Bumi's style, based off of seeing some of his battles on the Taco Truck stream, and as well seeing him type in chat and just like having some discussions with him on chat. It seems like he's very much about like following this meta style, reading teams, understanding like, hey, if I lead this, it's good against 5 out of 6, and I can win the lead here. I'm only worried about this the potential Pokemon, and he's very good at understanding what's in the back, like understanding what someone's team construct might be, in which might be totally different against Barry, who's a little bit of a wild card and sounds like a little bit of a cowboy out in the West. So should be really interesting to see them contrast and play out. And you know what? Since looks like everyone in this tournament is unranked, because like this is their first tournament, that means we could see Bumi versus Young Bumi versus Barry first round, or last round, or we might see some really interesting matches early on. So you definitely want to follow this tournament and see how people play out.
Yeah, something to take into consideration for this Sinister Cup too. There's no like one straight meta for a specific Pokemon too. Every Pokemon, like some of the more meta Pokemon, Poliwrath, Steelix, have very viable secondary movesets, right? So
Yes.
it's like almost everyone is running somewhat off meta teams in a sense.
Absolutely. I think oftentimes people talk about the SAP or SAP core, right? Steelix, Alolan, Marowak, and Poliwrath. But there are Pokemon that do well against all 3. All right, and like that's something that we haven't seen very often, to say like, hey, this core. Typically, when we talk about a core, we talk about like it's nearly an unbreakable core.
Yeah.
Right. If you line up your leads correctly, like you should win that matchup.
Yeah.
But we see like in this cup, as you talked about, there's a wide variety of not only Pokemon that are viable, but secondary moves that are really viable that can like flip matchups. So like such as like Poliwrath versus Steelix. Like if you land that Earthquake, late game, no shields, and they're running the conventional moveset, that matchup could be completely different. So it's a really interesting and probably the most fragile core that we've seen to date, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's totally crazy. And I'm really interested to see how this tournament plus Toronto's, yours tomorrow, and NYC's tournament is going to affect and shake up the meta moving forward with the rest of this month.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guarantee you that people are going to be looking at teams. And I've seen a number of people like message be like, when is this stream happening? when is that stream tomorrow happening? When are these tournaments happening? Because that's really going to dictate what teams that they're going to run or potentially counter.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm not, unfortunately, because I'm here today, I'm not going to be able to participate, but I'm very excited to watch some of the top battlers and battlers that I've battled against personally in either tournaments or in my practice matches, and see what they do so I can beat them next time I see them.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's going to provide you a really interesting perspective to see them like both battle and make real-time decisions, right? So you can take consideration that next time you battle, or you might have some insights that I might not have in terms of like what they might potentially do. Do they like to stack switch? Do they like to run double typings of strategies, or do they like to have bench pressure? It's gonna be really interesting. So I know this is a Pokemon that you covered in one of your videos quite extensively. It's a very good video. In terms is Giraafarig.
Yes.
Do you think we're gonna see some Giraafarig play?
That's gonna be kind of interesting. If so, the thing is with Giraafarig, you have very good matchups and then you have very bad matchups. So if you can get lined up with that good matchup, you almost pretty much won a very significant advantage. Do I think people are going to be running Giraafarig in this tournament? I think so. We have a good amount of people that love running kind of weird off-meta Pokemon, and Giraafarig is kind of like one of those fringe Pokemon that is partially meta because it has so many good matchups, but it's also not the preferred Pokemon for people that like running straight meta. So I think we're going to see Giraafarig in this tournament. It's just a matter of where and who's going to be using it.
So which matchups for the audience? Which matchups would you say, oh, Giraafarig is locked in with this Pokemon? You're like huge win.
Drifblim. Drifblim
okay.
is Drifblim. It's Giraafarig is going to be resisting pretty much the moveset that Drifblim is going to be running, which is double ghost, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, Giraafarig is just going to hit down confusions, doesn't have to block pretty much anything, and then just hit a charge move on the next Pokemon. And knowing Giraafarig, if you charge up enough energy, you can either get 2 Psychics or 2 Thunderbolts, and that's either going to knock down the next Pokemon really low or knock down a shield, right?
Yeah, with the boost to Psychic, it's a pretty big upgrade for Giraafarig. Now it doesn't have to settle for like a non-stab Thunderbolt. Right now it has Psychic that has the same stats as Thunderbolt, but has stab on top of it. So it's gonna be certainly got an upgrade with that last move change. Yeah. And then what Pokemon? So for the audience again, what Pokemon, if Giraafarig is locked in against, is an absolute nightmare for Giraafarig?
Absolute nightmare. Pretty much any of the Steel types.
Oh, any of the Steelix, for example, absolutely walls it.
Steelix completely walls it. Steel is going to be resisting Confusion. It's going to be resisting Thunderbolt with the ground typing. So you're pretty much walled at that point. So Giraafarig's just like a sitting duck, just waiting to either be knocked out or waiting for that switch clock to go through.
How about the other Steel types, like let's say Mawile?
Mawile with that Dark Bite move is just going to be tearing through it. So although Giraafarig is going to be resisting those ghost moves, it is going to be taking super effective damage from those dark moves. So like that's why Feint Attack Dusclops does really well against Giraafarig, but Hex Dusclops does not. So it's going to be that's one of the reasons why someone might use Feint Attack versus Hex in that matchup.
Yeah, no, absolutely should be really interesting.
All right, so the tournament should be starting within the next 10, 15 minutes or so. I think they're getting everyone checked in. Okay, so we're running a little bit late, so tournament should start at 1:15. Yeah, so we're just gonna be talking about some of the different people here today, if that's okay with you. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Okay, so is there anyone that you've heard of? So actually, one of the battlers that you've heard of and have been riding on her hype train is For the Battles.
Yeah, For the Battles. She just did a video where she absolutely destroyed me. So she's definitely a really strong battler.
Yep.
She's definitely very strong in in the remote scene. Like she does really well in a lot of these remote tournaments.
Yeah.
We'll see how that translates to some local tournaments, but definitely over 4,000 Great League wins. I'm sure
That's ridiculous.
Numbers climbing every day. It definitely is climbing every day, and
Yeah.
I've heard so many comments saying people are like, I'm like, oh, so who you scrimming with? They're like, oh, my main scrim partner is for the battles. I'm like, is for the battles the main scrim partner for like 10 people? It's absolutely it's pretty crazy and pretty nuts on how many battles.
Yeah. So she's actually from Sacramento. She made the drive out here to be in this tournament today, and I'm super happy. I gotta talk to her real quick in the lobby, and she's excited she to be in this tournament, and I'm excited to see how she does.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So once you tell us about the pogo scene in the Bay Area, like just give the audience some description, talk about like how the playstyles has evolved before and after PvP.
Okay, so I got into Pokemon Go relatively late, so like maybe last year, right around Tyranitar Day, so Larvitar Day, and for me, like I really enjoyed the community aspect of Pokemon Go, but unfortunately, I was mainly just around my community, right? So El Cerrito, like East Bay. But once PvP got introduced, it changed the game for me, right? It's the ultimate end game, and I feel like a lot of people felt that way as well. The really competitive people got a chance to test themselves on Pokemon knowledge, mechanics, reactions. All these things really helped. All these different aspects of Pokemon Go PvP accumulated and really appealed to this set of people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And somewhere like if people would ask me like what's going to be one of the hotspots for PvP, I definitely would have said the Bay Area, right? Like it's like such a hot spot to play Pokemon Go. It's like one of those like iconic places. Obviously, Niantic head office is there, so really really cool place. So hopefully we'll see more out of the Bay Area. And I know Taco's always streaming and bringing up a lot of great players there. So we're gonna see how season 2 plays out for it.
For sure. I'm really excited for this next season. Hopefully we get like even at the middle of last season there was new players coming in, and like players that were coming into like my local tournament and just beating everyone that was trainer level. It's really crazy how people in the Bay Area, like they weren't introduced to Pokemon Go PvP until later, and they're just coming in and wrecking havoc against everyone that's been around since the beginning. But the PvP scene is consistently and constantly evolving, and new skilled players are coming into the scene. So I'm really happy to see that evolving and moving forward.
Yeah, no, and I'll tell me a little bit more if you know anything about the organization that's putting together the Pokegatrs. Tell me a little bit about the team and behind it, and what their motivations are. If we can have them on, it's up to you.
Okay. Sorry. So quick update. It's gonna be a 1:30 start. So we're good. Just be chilling here for a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
But Pokegatrs, yeah, this tournament probably wouldn't happen without the Pokegatrs. The Pokegatrs are an organization run from SFSU. If you didn't know, San Francisco State University are the Gators. So the Pokegatrs are a community of people within SFSU that support the Pokemon Go community as a whole. So not just Pokemon Go PvP, but community days, like certain Pokemon Go related events. It's been, and luckily one of the people that are one of the leaders in Pokegatrs, he actually works for SFSU, and he helped get the venue. So it's really cool how they support the community, bring these tournaments. They actually also hosted the regionals, so it's kind of nice to come back to where I had regionals, and a lot of these players that you guys see today were participating in those regionals. So
yeah, no, for sure. I think obviously regionals is a important event for a lot of people when they think back to their season 1, right?
Yeah.
First time, like it might be the first time that they experience like a bigger tournament, or some of the names in like adjacent cities or areas or communities come together, and you're really seeing who's the best.
Yeah, it was. I think San Francisco, the Bay Area was one of the first regionals that concluded, And so it was really interesting. One of the largest regionals that concluded, and to see how that shifted the meta was really interesting as well, because before that it was like, oh, you have this meta, you go with this meta, it's like unstoppable. But then like things shifted, you know, you had Lantern come in, you had like later on you had Lugia, Gallade, you had like all these interesting Pokemon choices that weren't introduced when we first had our regional. So
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the same thing is gonna happen with Sinister, right? This is like one of the first, maybe stream. This might be the first stream or like more public stream tournaments, and it's certainly gonna change people's tones and perspectives on what they're gonna run with Sinister. I'm certainly, for myself, gonna pay a lot of attention to what's gonna go down and how people are gonna be utilizing different Pokemon.
So we actually have the list of competitors up here on the stream. So if we just scroll down, we have Telegraph Train. He's actually one of the leads for Pokegatrs. He ended really well. He ended up one of the higher ranked challengers at the end of season 1. So 780, I think, was his ending ranking. But that doesn't so the thing is with the PvP scene in the Bay Area, we didn't have like a ton of ace trainers or anything, but that's because the scene here is very competitive. So if it's like I can beat you one tournament and then the next tournament you beat me, and it just goes back and forth. So we're just constantly challenging each other for that top ranked place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's no one running away with it, and it certainly can like maybe suppress the rankings and in terms of the general performance, overall ranking. So it makes total sense.
The Bay Area, I would say, I don't want to be super biased, but I kind of want to be at the same time. Is that the Bay Area?
Best.
The Bay Area.
We already know it's the best, right?
Yeah, the Bay Area is super competitive. Everyone's just constantly challenging each other, and like if you look at this tournament, right? D-Master Lance won 4 tournaments. He was one of the first ace trainers that I knew of, at least. And then Barry over here, Romel J. Castro was one of the people that started halfway through the season and just started wreaking havoc on all these tournaments. So you can just see the amount of people on this list that just did really well in tournaments. This was, which tournament was this? Madgoy was an ace trainer. Yeah, so Barry's an ace trainer, D-Master, Madgoy, they were all ace trainers, and you just see like how the rankings stack up. Like no one's like super consistent because everyone's competitive here.
Yeah, no, I certainly see some like records all over the place with some of these like really tough competitors. People going like 6-0, then like 2-2, like the next tournament. It's some pretty crazy and wild cards and really looking forward to seeing these guys play it out and battle it out.
Yeah. So right here we have I'm Too Salty for You. So he's from Berkeley, and I actually battled against him. I don't know if you saw it, but one of my first PvP videos was a Berkeley Boulder Cup video, and I turned up against Salty in the finals, and I pulled it off with one tap. He's a good trainer. He's a great trainer. So
I think I recall that video. At the beginning of the video, you're like, I want to go somewhere else. I want to challenge myself in outside my own local scene. So fast, I watch all your videos. So of course I know it. So
thank you, King. But yeah, Salty is one of the he's just like nonstop. He's always asking for battles, always like looking to challenge himself, go to new places. I think he's someone to watch out for in this next season for sure. I'm super excited for this next season.
Is there anyone in the Bay Area or in this tournament that has like a chip on their shoulder? Someone that maybe like had like a few bad tournaments, or like made 1 or 2 mistakes, or like had like 1 or 2 unlucky breaks and feel like maybe we're underestimating them.
So someone that started off personally, this is who I know personally, is Doggy Ollie. He started the season off super strong. Only had like a couple losses each tournament, but later on, like halfway through the season, he had like real life stuff that came up. Like he actually had a kid, so that's
Yeah.
like a real life thing that
Yeah.
really affects your pogo playing time.
No,
Right?
absolutely, absolutely.
So he's someone that I feel like has the knowledge and has like the ability to do really well in this next season. In terms of someone that has a chip on their shoulder, I'm not sure. Most people, almost everyone in the Bay Area has a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So tacos. Ta- Tacos right here pulling up Tenderizi. Tacos saying Tenderizi, shaking his head. Tenderizi. Yeah. So Taco's pulling up Mushroom King. So Mushroom King is a very big part of the Pogo community here. Not only is he a hardcore PvP player, he hunts tons of shinies. He's at almost every community event in the San Francisco area. He even comes out to my local community and participates in tournaments. So he loves running off meta. So he's whenever you're facing him, you're just like, what do I do? I have no clue what this team does. And sometimes he pulls it off, sometimes he loses, but he just enjoys running these teams, and it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly seeing a lot of interesting picks in terms of his. He ran in the Mirror Cup Twilight. He ran a Swellot, just and a Gloom and a Gengar.
Yeah, he ran a
which is,
Magby in Rainbow Cup in Chicago. Yeah,
He
a
ran.
Magby.
That's kind of yeah. These even in his Ranger lobby, he ran a Machamp. That's
Yeah.
that's yeah. That's he ran a Ninjas. I don't even know what this Tempest. Tempest. This must be Tempest. Yeah. No. It's lots of really Alolan Dugtrio. I'm assuming in Boulder. Wow. Okay. So some really interesting picks, and I like trainers that Farfetch in Tempest.
He was so my Tempest video, I actually battled him after I won that tournament, and I was like, Farfetch'd? Why? And he was like explain to me like why he was using a Farfetch.
Fury Cutter.
Yeah.
What does it have? Aerial Ace? Does it have Aerial Ace?
Yes, it has Aerial Ace. And
I don't know what else it has.
yeah.
Some Anyways, I've only seen one video where
I think he has
someone
Leaf Blade.
Leaf Blade. Oh, that Leaf Blade's pretty good.
Yeah, so it's like another version of Tropius. Yeah.
Yeah, with like a way less tankiness.
Yeah. But you
yeah,
spam those charge moves much faster with that Fury Cutter.
Yeah, no, certainly, and those certainly can add as long as you can survive. So.
Yeah. So King, let me ask you a question. What are you expecting from this tournament? Like, what kind of strategies are you expecting? What a lot of lineups are you expecting to see?
Well, I think we started with like the core, right? So Poliwrath, Alolan Marowak, and Steelix, and probably Fire Alolan Marowak, Fire Spin Alolan Marowak, then rather than Hex, because that's pretty core meta. And then so I think we'll see some of that play because that's a pretty decent core, right? As long as they don't have like counters that beat like both of them, or like but they certainly cover each other to a certain degree. And then I think we'll see some like really interesting play in terms of like double steal, whether that's the double steal comes in the form of Bastodon, because Bastodon, outside of the Steelix matchup, like does really well against the Ghost. It like it absolutely obliterates the Ghost, right? It just makes them poof, vamoose, right? Disappear as if they were really Ghosts, right? So I think we'll see some like really strong play with Bastodon, and we'll also see some like really scary play with Mawile. Mawile in the back with shields, like you think you can be up like you're up 2 Pokemon to 1. You know, in the back I have a Cresselia super tanky. I'm gonna take everything out. Then you realize that look. I'm not sure. At least I've done it on stream in one of my videos. Like that look when you're like, oh yeah, I got this. And then their last Pokemon appears and you're like, it's a Mawile, and like all you have is like like a ghost like a Drifblim and a Cresselia, and you realize like, oh man, it's over. It's just gonna bite me down. Like I think that we're gonna see some really interesting play. But I also think we'll see, you're talking about a lot of creative trainers. I think we'll see a lot of interesting picks. So like things Pokemon like Slowbro, I'm interested in seeing if anyone brings Slowbro to their tournaments. I'm not sure. Can we see what they checked in with
Can
at
we
this
see
point in time?
what they checked in with yet? I don't think
Uh,
so. Yeah.
it, and as well, I think we'll see people run like no or minimal ghosts or heavy reliance on their ghost types. Um, and then we'll see all sorts of like this cup is so amazing. Like there's so many different options available in each of the types. Like there's so many different psychic Pokemon. You
Yeah.
run. The
Yeah.
Claydol's viable.
Yeah.
Bronzon's viable. Lugia and Cresselia are amazing psychic tanks.
Yep.
We'll see like Gardevoir and Gallade. Gallade
Yeah.
like doing that charm damage can just like really chip away at an opponent. So
Yeah.
I think we'll see a lot of really interesting play, and we might see some Empoleon and yeah, all over the place.
I think you're gonna see all of those just because from the people that I've talked with personally, like I've heard all those Pokemon that you've talked about. I've heard them say, "Yeah, I'm running this. I'm running this." I had a chance to talk with a few of the competitors before the tournament, and yeah, I've heard all those names that you mentioned already. So we're definitely this tournament more than this cup more than any other cup. I feel like you don't have to stick with the core meta that often. There's a few times when I didn't run any of those 3 Pokemon and I won.
You could seriously win a tournament without running any of those three, and
Yeah.
I couldn't say the same about that in any meta. You couldn't say that in Kingdom. If you left off 3 of the 4 core meta, you'd probably lose or have like an extremely difficult time. If you left off Vigoroth off
Yeah,
your Jungle
in
Cup,
general.
you would have like a really tough time.
Yeah.
And basically, if you let off Medicham and Skarmory and Boulder, you're
Yeah.
you're, you're
Yeah.
pretty much done for, right? So this is certainly one of the cups where we might have. You could look at 10 different tournaments and like have completely different teams of 6
Yeah.
that end up like winning really competitive tournaments. So
Yeah.
so we'll see how people decide to play them out.
So one thing that happened not too long ago was this recent update, right? This recent
Yes,
update
yes.
flipped the meta on its head and just like forget your team, come up with a new team.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Let's go. Really interesting extremes. Biggest winners and biggest losers.
Okay.
So who's your biggest winner?
My biggest winner is Mawile.
With that power up punch? Yeah.
With that power up punch and the nerf to power up punch. Yeah, that nerf.
Both, right?
Both,
it got power up punch, and the nerf to it
Yeah.
certainly made those counters that it faced less viable,
Exactly.
or at least less dominating. They couldn't farm, and they honestly have to worry about the play rough, right? Which is not something that you would have ever dreamed about before in a previous matchup with Mawile. So yeah, it certainly helped it. And power up punch is just good enough to allow you to win that like 2 shield matchup against well, it's really Mawile using 2 shields, but
Yeah.
that 2 shield matchup against Steelix
Yeah.
and Bastiodon,
Yeah.
which is huge, right?
Yeah,
You're not talking about like and plus you have like this super boosted Mawile coming in the back, and usually like the Bastiodon or Steelix was their Mawile counter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
having that win condition available is certainly a big plus.
Yeah. I think so that's my biggest winner. How about yours, King?
I think my biggest winner is Fire Spin Alolan Marowak, or Alolan Marowak in general, because I think when PV Pokes ratings first came out, I don't take them for gospel. I kind of look at them, understand what they are, because like a lot of times they're assessing it based off every single Pokemon in the meta, right? They're not necessarily refining it down to their core meta. So I honestly thought Alolan Marowak being number 1 was an overrating of it. And part of that is that Alolan Marowak had such an amazing bait move.
Yes.
Like in Bone Club. Bone Club is the 35 energy, the like tied for the cheapest energy available in the game. And then it has a nuke, right? So any Pokemon that has a bait and a nuke, of course, is going to be rated really, really highly, because in the 1 shield it can just bait and then nuke, and plus Shadow Ball being unresisted. So I thought Alolan Marowak a little bit overrated, but once it got access to Fire Spin, it flipped it to allow it to be able to counter Steelix, like one of the other meta-defining Pokemon, and it made like secured that matchup, which made it just that much better without giving up a ton. It does certainly give up some of the matchups, like against like it's not able to hit super effective against Ghost or Psychic, but Fire Spin is a really good move, or certainly a better overall move than Hex. So I think that's my biggest winner, and certainly a Pokemon that I think a lot of people really should be considering to run. It's not mandatory,
Yeah.
but it's like it can do a lot of damage to a lot of the meta.
So I haven't done The Sims yet, but does Hex Marowak beat Fire Spin Marowak?
Oh yeah. Well, it's whoever land. It ultimately is
Whoever lands the Shadow Ball.
whoever lands the Shadow Ball. But as a Hex Marowak, you kind of have like a little bit more flexibility in terms of like what degree of risk you can take, because like your Hex damage does slowly wear down the opposing Marowak. So like there's like potentially more options, and how much that Bone Club means is a higher percentage of the remaining health of the Alolan Marowak, as opposed to Fire Spin being resisted. So we might see some mirrors, and we might see some counterplay or people running the conventional set. But flipping that matchup, I don't know how many times before this update people see a Alolan Marowak or they see a Ghost, and then they switch in their Steelix.
Yes.
And that will be a mistake when they come in with into a Fire Alolan Marowak.
It's definitely a Pokemon and definitely a winner, like you mentioned, because of that Fire Spin. You have to think twice before bringing in that Steelix, right? It's like how much energy does it have? Like how much health does it have? There's a lot of more factors involved with that Fire Spin in play, right?
Yeah, no, so and to be honest, it doesn't even like you would think like in some matchups, like for example against Poliwrath, that it would lose that much harder against Poliwrath, but the matchup is largely the same against Poliwrath in most shield scenarios. Let's talk about who are the biggest losers. There's like really only the losers relative to all the people that gained, and then as well losers in terms of like that their power got nerfed.
Let's start with you. What's your
So I think this is still really good, but maybe is not. Poliwrath pre-update was the meta king.
Yeah.
Right? It was kind of like what Alolan Marowak is in its position, like in terms of being the most flexible pick in the entire meta. Pre-update with Power Punch, Ice Punch, and Bubble, it allowed you to like. There was very few Pokemon that would absolutely wall Poliwrath, right? It at least could do some damage and have be a really flexible pick. But it went from like the number one Pokemon in the meta to like the number 6. It's still good. And then one other one that I think took a hit, and this is from a relative perspective, is Gardevoir. I think Gardevoir took a hit because of the rise of Mawile. And Mawile being able to like bite down on Gardevoir, and as well like Charm being resisted by Mawile certainly impacted some of it. I think I still think Gardevoir is still very viable, but it took a relative hit because of the rise of Mawile.
Yeah. Mine was definitely Poliwrath as well. Poliwrath before could steamroll teams. If you got a few power up, if you're able to farm a Steelix and then just get those bubbles rolling, nothing can beat those bubbles plus the power up punch, right? So those two things covered almost everything. Plus an Ice Punch to cover any flying types. Like it was so hard to counter that.
It makes it that much harder to farm down a Steelix. So like you're actually like when pre-update, when you went to the Steelix matchup, you're like I don't really care what move it hits me. So gonna survive, and these power punches are gonna do a lot. Now I'm gonna be able to farm down Steelix. Now like you have to be worried like, oh man, it's gonna be an earthquake. How much energy did the Steelix have? It's gonna hit me with an earthquake and a crunch. Now I have to figure out which is when, because I know my power punch is not gonna do enough. And as I think specifically what got nerfed was the moveset of Poliwrath of Bubble, Power Up Punch, and Ice Punch.
Yes.
Now it kind of unlocked the potential and the ability of other movesets, like Dynamic Punch,
Yes.
for example. I think it's certainly really viable. Obviously, with Dynamic Punch, you don't have that bait anymore. With Power Up Punch, because it's such low energy, and we also see the viability of like perhaps Mudshot, Ice Punch, Hydro Pump, and the rise of Hydro Pump, just to be able to actually do a lot of damage. So it gave rise to other movesets, which is good and good for the meta, but it also means that Power Up Punch doesn't have that same carryover effect, and as you said, ability to steamroll teams.
Yep, definitely. So it seems like they just brought all the battlers into the battling room, and we're about to get started pretty soon, right, Taco?
All right, perfect. Who do we have up first?
Okay. Yep, you can turn on this.
They're going to be starting announcements inside.
There's,
This is a different mic.
man of the
Hopefully
hour.
this is okay. What's going on, everybody? Hello out there. Thank you
uh,
for hanging out on the taco truck here
Taco
with
time, right? So
yeah, taco time.
I'm not sure if I'm supposed to hear him or not.
No, you're not gonna be able to hear me, King. He's just gonna
Okay,
see my
alright.
mouth.
He's not gonna be You're not gonna be able to hear him.
Yeah, so we're they should be doing announcements right now. We're gonna be getting the first matchups up. When we do get those, we'll flash back over to the bracket on screen. We'll go ahead and pick our first matchup. I have been getting some messages about the music. Hopefully that's fixed. Thank you everybody for helping me with that. Let me know if it's still too loud. And so just a big shout out to Kang. Thank you so much for helping us basically grow the scene here in San Francisco. Thank you, Best, for making the trip up. And I'm just really excited for this tournament today. We're going to see some great battlers, and I'm going to pass it on back.
All right. So who that is? This is actually his stream right here. The taco truck. He puts on amazing, very entertaining streams. So if you're not already subscribed or not already following Taco on Twitch, go ahead and follow him right now. He's putting together this whole thing. All this equipment, this is all his. Yeah, shout out to him.
Okay, best $1 million question.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the answer to this.
Okay.
What's Taco's real name? Unless it is Taco.
It's okay. Let me ask you what he is.
Oh
Okay,
man, I have no idea.
Okay, this is gonna be funny. This is gonna be funny because
I'm
actually,
horrible at
if
names,
you look,
I'm also historically horrible at guessing names.
so my
It
name's
could be Taco.
my name's
Why not,
Vance.
right? I can see it.
My
I can
name's
see it.
my name's Vance. It's actually like the first sentence on my
Never,
info.
okay, it's in the bio.
Yeah, it's the first. It's the
Okay, I got
first
it.
sentence on there. It's from a TV show,
Everyone
The
calls him
League,
Taco.
about fantasy football.
Damn.
I got the nickname in 2008, 2009, and it stuck. And it's funny because it's 10 years later.
Okay, all right, those are good.
10 years
So
later.
who do we have up first?
So, do we have the first matchup? No. Picked it up. Can you pull up the... Okay. So, we're about to pull up the... They haven't checked in yet? No, they haven't checked in yet. Still waiting a little bit. So, it looks like 30... Huh? We should be getting it soon. They're probably still doing announcements and checking in, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Taco's real name, if no one knew, it's Vance. Lol. But everyone calls him Taco. It's like how, yeah. Is it King Iv?
Oh, it's
Is
King
it
Ivy.
King
It's King
or is
Ivy.
it
You
King?
know what? The funny thing is that
This mic on.
people were.
This mic's on?
Let's see here. Oh, let's check in. Oh, okay, I guess check-in's not closed yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
check
it's,
it
yeah,
out.
it's still there.
Okay. You know, people were like, "Is your real name King Ivy?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." This like, you know, maybe 6 months into Pogo, people kept saying this to me. I'm like, "Well, that's the big deal." Then I finally clued in what they were actually talking about, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I get it. My name pronounced is the acronym of the hidden stats in Pokemon Go, right? And that's along with my first name, kind of makes a funny combination. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's like my actual name. I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Wait, your actual name is King? Wait, did I miss that?
Yeah.
That's
His actual name's King.
Oh, okay. So it's not. You know what's funny is how many times I've called you Kiang.
Well, we both have
And
cool
not
names.
King.
Fast, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So.
I've been pronouncing King's name wrong the entire time. In case anybody didn't notice, I've been saying Kiang. I gotta call myself out. How come nobody corrected me? What the hell? You guys. You gotta be kidding me. It's hilarious. Nightwing,
I'm just looking
no
through
one
this
knew?
meta list on this PV Poke ranking list.
Yeah.
And so some of them that make the top 10, well, this might be a surprise for top 10. Frostlass.
Yeah, I haven't seen a Frostlass since the beginning of testing this Sinister Cup, just because it loses a lot of. It loses to it lost to Poliwrath pretty hard, right? Because Poliwrath was resisting those ice moves.
Yeah. Well, it's saying that it's running Hex Shadow Ball. Is interesting. I'm curious on why it's rated so high. Well, I guess it with its. I'm curious. I guess it does pick up.
about that too, right?
Interesting. It picks up the
Because if you
Dustclaw
look at- if you
matchup.
look at
So,
this-
do you think we'll see any Frostlass? Do you think anyone in the Bay Area is like kind of risky enough to run Frost? Very squishy.
Frostlass is one of the
So-
squishiest Pokemon
X-
in this tournament, and I just don't see anyone really running. I just don't see anyone really running the Frostlass because you have so many better Ghost type Pokemon that do the same thing that Frostlass does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Curious actually.
So there's
If it
one
actually
local trainer.
beats-
X,
If
though. He's not
Poliwrath
here,
still
though.
beats it, because so it wins in the. Let's actually run it with Hex. So Frostlass with Hex wins 0 and the 1
0 and 1. Okay. Against Poliwrath, right?
against Poliwrath.
Interesting.
So is it at least so then it loses in the 2, probably because those bubbles start revving up.
Yeah.
Actually no.
Bubble's gonna be neutral to Frostlass, right? So yeah, I think those bubbles would eventually like overpower
they-
that Frostlass.
Yeah, they go from 7 to 11 damage in the season 2. They go from 7 to 12 damage at the end,
Yeah.
which is just devastating when you only have 132 HP. So
Yeah. And then you're gonna be able
Wow.
to get like 1 or 2 bubbles off on the next Pokemon, is my guess.
yeah, well you have a full up power up punch,
Yep.
or 1 bubble away from an ice punch. So
Yeah.
it's an interesting to see what else. And then this is something that's on Taco Stream sometimes, and I powered up one recently. I don't think it's good. Reggie Steele.
Reggie Steele?
The silver trash can.
Hey,
You
that's-
certainly-
it
It certainly has a ton of bulk.
It's Registeel is all about understanding how much damage you need to do before you switch Registeel in, because the whole goal is with Registeel is taking all the charge moves, never using
Taco hiding all those Reggie
Not-
Steele strats.
not using the charge move on the first Pokemon, right? So like if I have my Registeel
alright.
against like a Yanma or whatever, you switch in on me, I switch in my Registeel on your Yanma. I'm never gonna use a charge move. I'm gonna take everything, save the charge move for the next Pokemon, and it's the thing you have to be careful with in some matchups. You have
Yeah,
to do
Taco, I can't.
damage.
Maybe it's just me. I can't.
Oh.
I can't hear what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, only this mic is going to you. Lol. So as I was saying to everybody on the stream, the basically the way Registeel works for me is it's about using it as a switch in, never leading it, and mostly getting it into a matchup where I know I can either get off a charge move or I can tap down and then have the charge move for the next Pokemon. So switching it in on like Steelix and stuff like that, Bastodon's been really good. Depending if you have a shield or not, because you can take the Earthquake and a Crunch and still survive from Steelix. You don't need a shield. and then you focus
Oh, you can
blast
take
it,
an
and it's dead.
earthquake and a crunch.
You take an earthquake and a crunch, and you will focus blast the Steelix, and the guy with and you know what's cool is every time you do that, you have like 10 HP, and they're always looking at you like, oh my god, how'd you do that? But you've done it like 10 times. So it's just like, that's just how the matchup works. As long as, and I think like you don't need a rank top 100 or so rank Reggie to do that. The problem is when you play good players, the problem then becomes they'll get you in a bad spot. If you have a Reggie in your team, it's like running a Victory Bell in open. You're probably going to have Victory Bell somewhere in your team. So good players counter that. So that's where I've been running into problems. That's why it's not on my Sinister Cup team.
Okay, all right. Taka, what's the spiciest Pokemon on your team?
The spiciest Pokemon would be a Water Pulse Psychic Slowbro.
Ooh,
That's literally
okay,
my
all
go-to.
right.
It counters everything
Right.
that counters Poliwrath and Steelix, basically, which are the two that I really, really like. Poliwrath running Dynamic Punch.
Very nice. Very nice.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I just hear Taco's like subscriber like notification. It's just like, yes, yes, I got 2 free tacos.
Well, you're gonna be hearing that a lot.
I know.
It's gonna be a great stream. How about how you feeling about, some people are hyping up Primate counter cross up Nice Slash. What are your thoughts on that?
So I was battling Jay Devin the other night, and
Yeah.
he was wrecking my team with Primate, like completely wrecking my team with Primate. I had no real counter to it. I think it's pretty squishy, but because it has 2 very fast charging charge moves plus a very high energy production with counter, that squishiness doesn't hinder Primate as much as one might think. So it's kind of like a fighting Haunter, except a little less squishy. So that's how I would like to describe it.
Certainly, and it has like that great coverage move, and because it's squishy, has like such a high attack, it actually does like way more damage than I thought it would.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting pick, and that counter cross chop is a really spammy combo, and right. And when Pokemon are squishy, you want them to be able to get off the charge moves really quickly, and that's what defines what makes or breaks those type of Pokemon.
Yeah. So when I was battling Jay Devin last night, he was just wrecking my whole team, because my whole team. So he kind of made me consider Lugia. I wasn't running Lugia before, but because Primate was just hitting so hard with those Night Slashes against my other Psychic Pokemon or my Ghost types, which would normally counter the fighting types, I had to rethink what Pokemon I wanted to bring. So I think Primate is definitely a viable Pokemon, and I think with the nerf to Power Up Punch, I think because Primate doesn't have Power Up Punch, it rose in ranks as well in terms of viability in this Sinister Cup meta.
Yeah, no, absolutely, right. It doesn't make Power Up Punch like the only viable fighting charge move now, right? Yeah, with that nerf, which I think is overall positive for the meta.
Yeah, I think that nerf to Power Up Punch actually balanced the meta much more than I would have thought it would have. It brought Poliwrath down to earth a little bit more, and it made other Pokemon with fighting other fighters actually more viable, right? So.
Yeah, no, for sure. So what are you liking in terms of? So you talked about like Lugia. Any other ones you're liking or not liking for this meta? Or how they fit in constructing your team?
So I guess for me, because I was practicing Giraafarig so much, I saw that it was completely walling Drifblim. And I know there's tons of like Drifblim lovers, such as like, I know Jake loves using Drifblim. I know like a lot of people love Drifblim. But for me personally, like I'm not a huge fan of it. I just don't like how it can, I don't know. I don't like the slow attack. I don't like how it's squishy in terms of not bulk, but in terms of defense. So that's just me personally. I don't really have a great reason why. It's just a personal preference.
Yeah, it loses harder to Bastion, right?
Yes.
The smackdowns do way more damage, right? And it's certainly not well. Okay, Call Me Jake said he dropped. Drift
I
Lim.
know. I just saw that
Uh,
too.
Call Me Jake running that double fake, right? Using Drift Lim in every video.
Yeah.
And then once he came to his tournament, everyone's like, I got Call Me Jake. I got every Drift Lim counter, running a team of 6, right, to
Yeah.
take him out, and yeah. Zionic, the tournament's gonna start pretty soon.
Yeah.
So I think Drift Lim, I think one person described it as like it has a lot of win conditions. You know what I mean? Like in if you have a shield advantage,
Yeah.
like there's a way to ultimately win with Drift Lim, and the ability to get the boost, ominous win boost, and as well the nuke with Shadow Ball is a pretty good. And the flying type probably hurts it more than helps it in this meta, unfortunately. But you know, we see a rise in some Pokemon. We'll see if people run it this cup.
Yeah.
In terms of Claydol, and Drifblim's like one of the best counters for.
This is
Claydol.
true. Yeah, I agree.
So
All right. Let me just check in with Telegraph Train real quick. What's up?
perfect. No? Let's go. I'll go to the chat. Post your questions. Thank you, Dark Matter Wolf, for hosting. Yes, congratulations, Zionic, on your baby boy. Hopefully you're not staying up too late and everything's going well. Edison gets more wrecked by Thunderfang Steelix. Thunderfang Steelix is certainly has some interesting matchups. Obviously, can flip the matchup with Poliwrath in some shield scenarios, or it reaches certain attack breakpoints. You know, obviously Thunderfang doing neutral damage to Mawile is pretty good too. So, yeah, we'll see the results of.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
They just announced that they're about to lock everyone in, and we're about to get this tournament started. So.
All right, perfect. So someone's asking, did you see Valor sweep his Pennsylvania tournament?
Yeah, I saw that. I actually saw his team. We talked a little bit, just behind the scenes. Just so I always like to pick his brain sometimes because he's such a skilled competitor. But at the same time, I know I can't execute everything that he does. Technically, he's so sound. He's so good. So the same strategies might not always apply for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's what I say about like careful when you look at like some of these top trainers, ability to run certain teams because they have like this like nth level degree of reading teams and executing and there's like some Pokemon like for me, for example, I'm not sure I could successfully run Haunter in my team of 6 just because it requires like so much finesse and like real time thinking and like right team construct and right reading of your opponent that it's certainly one of those Pokemon that can absolutely run through a team but can also fade without getting off any charge moves. So so certainly one that you have to be at a pretty high level to play. But who knows if he actually ran it or not in terms of teams of 3. But so and then as well we saw Call Me Jake recently posted on Twitter that he won his local tournament, and so should be some people are really trying to make a name for themselves or reinforce their high rank from season 1.
So the tournament is pulled up. I'm looking at Tenderizi Allen would be a good matchup. For the Bow's Mustache Mark, that would be a really good matchup. Oh, sorry. Just looking at some of these matchups.
Okay, is it checked in right?
Yeah, everyone's checked in.
Perfect. Okay. I'm gonna post the link in the chat.
Yep. So we're gonna try to take ask Young Bumi or Tenderizi or Allen.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, I got timed out on the stream.
Okay. So we're gonna try to ask Tenderizi and Allen 8. Table 8.
Yeah, I tried to.
Oh, Tenderizi Allen, second choice. Let's ask for the battles in Mustache Mark? Okay, so yeah, we're just gonna pick because we want to. We're just because the rankings don't really matter right now. We're just gonna pick different matchups that we think would be interesting to showcase some of the talent we have here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at some of these teams. Want to start at the top?
Yeah, let's
Or
start at the
is there any
top.
Or is there any particular Pokemon that you want to look at? Slow Bro,
What you got?
right? Growing out, right?
Yeah. So we have let's start at the top. So let's see. We have this. The top one's pretty meta. Second one's pretty meta. Third one we have a Alolan Raichu. We didn't mention that at all with the Thunder Shock, right? That
I
was
just did
part
a
of the.
video on it. I just did a video of best of 7 against somebody.
Yeah.
Alolan Raichu, like if once you get rid of Steelix,
Mhm.
oftentimes goes unchecked.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a Latias. All right, so we have our first matchup here with us right now. We have Tenderizi and Alan here.
Ooh, okay, all right. Give me this.
So Alan has been a big part of the PvP scene in the Berkeley East Bay area. He's actually one of my battle partners. He was also in one of my first Boulder Cup video, so you might recognize him. Both. I was also in his mirror video. He was also in my mirror video. But anyways, we're about to get this tournament started. So let's take a look at their teams.
Yes, I'm gonna take a look right now. Tenderizi. Okay. All right. So Alan is running Empoleon, Steelix, Driftblim, Alolan Marowak, Cresselia, Poliwrath. Right. So running that core, and then supplements to that core.
Okay. Can you scroll through their teams?
And then Tenderizi running Poliwrath, Steelix, Driftblim, Claydol, Cresselia, Alolan Marowak. The only difference between their team is Claydol versus Driftblim, which is interesting. One choosing to run double psychic to counter. It's actually pretty interesting. Claydol versus Empoleon. Both designed to have take care of steel types to some degree, but in very different ways. Empoleon designed to take it out with fast moves, while Claydol, if it's running that double ground moveset, can actually take out Steelix in the one shield. As long as it lands the Earth Power bait, which like most Steelix users will shield a charge move from Claydol.
Yeah.
So we'll see moveset though. We gotta see who's running Fire Spin Alolan Marowak versus Hex.
Yes.
And then we gotta see, largely the movesets on. We gotta see if it's Psycho Cut or Confusion, which matters.
Yes.
And then we gotta see charge move. Largely doesn't matter. I think most people want to run Moon Blast plus something else, whether that's Aurora Beam or Future Sight. And then who knows? Are any of these opponents bring spicy picks? Do they, or spicy moves? I should say. Or are they pretty standard?
I feel like I've battled against Alan a few times. He knows his stuff. Tenderizi, on the other hand, I don't believe I've battled against him before. So it'll be interesting. This is pretty much my first time seeing him battle. As same with you, right, King?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So it'll be interesting to see how he plays his lineup and what kind of movesets he's running on those Pokemon that have multiple viable movesets, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and then we'll see on Poliwrath. They're gonna be running whether they're running Mudshot versus Bubble, whether they're running Ice Punch, Power Punch, Ice Punch, Hydro Pump, Power Punch, Hydro Pump. There's lots of really viable movesets. Obviously, with Tenderizi team having Driftblim and Claydol, having that Ice Punch is going to be super valuable, right? And then Empoleon, you really need, if you're the Poliwrath, you really need a fighting charge move, whether that's Power Up Punch or Dynamic Punch. So if you run Tenderizi's running Ice Punch Hydro Pump, which I have no idea, then that might make that Empoleon matchup a little more difficult. All right. Oh, they're saying that they can't hear you, Best.
Now, can you guys hear me now?
Okay, looks like can't hear. You know what? What they're saying in the chat is like they don't want to hear the worst. They want to hear the best. Right? So, they're like, gotta get them back on there.
Okay.
And they said noise is back. The white noise?
Said the white
I'm not
noise is
sure.
back.
Oh, the mics are too close to each other. Move the
So
mic.
use this mic.
No, move
use-
the mic. You have two mics beside each other. Yeah, move your mic. Move the stand mic or whatever it is.
Is this one working? Is this one working?
That's King,
Okay, this is King.
and this is Chat.
So can we turn this one off right
No,
now?
I just fixed it. It should be.
Or are
better.
they both going to the stream, or is this the headset?
So the headset's to you, King, and then
Only
this
to me.
only to you, and this one the Yeti is towards
I'm
the stream.
wondering- Oh, you know what the issue is that you might be seeping through my headset.
Oh
into
really?
my mic. Maybe. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I
have
don't
no
know what's
idea. I'm
going
just
on.
speculating at this point in time. They said it's perfect right now.
Okay, it's
Can you guys still hear Best?
Because we took long enough for my game capture to turn on.
okay. So we're gonna need to do a quick pause, real quick.
Yeah.
The game capture devices.
No, we'll be right back.
We'll be right back. Okay. So everyone stick around. Like, give us like 1 or 2 minutes.
1 minute.
1 minute.